Welcome to Tabletop Gaming Guild. Tabletop Gaming Guild is all about the experiences and memories that playing tabletop games with friends and families can create. Today we're looking at Magic the Gathering's Heroes of Dominaria board game. This is designed by Peter Lee and published by WizKids. Heroes of Dominaria has Magic the Gathering name and some of the art assets, but other than that it really has no real affiliation with Magic the Gathering mechanically or gameplay wise. It is a resource gathering game with the potential for explosive turns. In Heroes of Dominaria, you're going to be playing as one of 4 wizards. The version I have has these nice pre-printed miniatures for your main characters, and you have additional characters you can get that are just meeples. On a turn, the first thing you're going to do is reveal a card, and that'll determine what resources appear on the board. In this case, all the fire regions are going to gain 1 mana, and the region of Keld will gain 1 cult symbol, which are enemies you can defeat. Every single one of these cards will cause 1 color of mana to grow. They may also either cause cults to appear or cause artifacts to appear. After you seeded the board in that manner, you'll begin your turn in earnest. You will start the game with 2 quests that will give you some sort of directive as far as what you might be wanting to focus on with your actions, but you'll be taking the following 5 actions in any order. Most of them you can take as many times as you want or are able to. The first possible action you can take is movement. You are given movement equal to the number of figures you have on the board that can be divided any way you want among those figures. Second possible action is gather resource. If one of your figures is at a location, you can take all the mana from that location and put it in your personal pool. Later on, you'll be able to build ley lines, which extend the reach of your mana collection. Other possible actions are use abilities of your planeswalker, which is a fair amount there, so we'll come back to that. You can use the ability of an artifact you have acquired at some point in the game, or you can complete a quest that you fulfilled the prerequisites for. Let's jump back to the abilities of the planeswalker. Every planeswalker has the same abilities that require mana to trigger. You can trigger as many of these abilities as you want as long as you have the mana to pay for them. So in this case, for 4 mana of any color plus 1 white mana, you can place a new worker or figure in any starting locations, which are the locations ringed in orange. For 3 mana and a water mana, you can collect an artifact if your figure's on a location with an artifact. For 2 mana and a black mana, assuming this is death mana, you could defeat a cult. When you defeat a cult, they go on your board, and you're going to score points for them at the end of the game for how many of those you covered, as well as certain ones when you cover them, you trigger certain abilities, such as getting more quests. For 4 mana of any color and a red mana, or fire mana, you can build a mana lith. And mana liths unlock these special tokens. You can get 1 of each color based on which colors you built your mana liths on, and that counts for as 1 mana of that color every single turn. For 2 mana and a life mana, you can build a ley line. Ley lines can be built adjacent to your person on these dotted lines, and they connect the regions. When you connect a region, anytime you gather mana, you can gather mana on the location where your figure is, or any location that your figure is connected to by ley lines. As you take things off of this board, you're going to be revealing more points that you're going to score at the end of the game, as well as some of them will give you extra little bonuses, such as more quests, or ability to move more. And that is a turn. On your first turn, you're not going to be able to do much. Most likely, you're just going to move and gather mana. However, in later turns, you might have a lot of mana, be able to use a lot of abilities and use a lot of cards that you have gathered up. So hence the reference to explosive turns. There is definitely a potential you can do a lot in one turn in the later part of the game. The game goes for 9, 10, or 11 turns depending on how many players are in the game. At the end of the game you total up your score, and of course the person with the highest points wins. It's a pretty straightforward game and relatively fast game. The box has up to 90 minutes, which I think is pretty accurate, if not a little shorter than that. I think the most interesting part of this game is the arc. At first you're not able to do a whole lot, and later in the game though, if you plan right, you can have long turns that are really productive and really effective. You do have to pay attention to what other people are doing though, because if people are snapping up all the mana in one area, you need to make sure you're paying attention to where you're moving so you're not getting cut off from the good mana sources, and you always have a good influx of resources. It's also a game where everything you do feels like it's productive. There are many ways to get points. There are multiple possible strategies that are all equally viable. And I think it's a really well-balanced game that feels kinetic. It can be a little bit frustrating though if it seems like the other players are pushing you in the corner and everybody's taking the resources you wanted. But if you plan well, you can avoid that relatively easily, or work around it at least. Overall, I was a little worried with this being a Magic the Gathering game. I thought it could be a little bit of cash grab, that they weren't really putting that much effort in, but I think they did a really good job balancing it. It's not a game I'd necessarily pull out all the time because it's actually simpler than it seems like it should be for the footprint that it has, but I think that does work in the favor for introducing new players. You can get them playing and they can really get invested and have a good chance of winning on their first playthrough. Overall, I'd say this is a great game that really hits its target market. It's easy to learn. It's suitable for people that are, relatively new to gaming or looking for maybe like a little bit towards your next step. And it's still fun for people who play games all the time and are very fluent in how board games work. Hope that gives you a sense of what to expect from Heroes of Dominaria and helps you decide whether this is a game for you. Thank you again for watching. Please join us again on YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, and other social medias. And please don't forget to like and subscribe.